The opinions expressed on the radio program by the host, co-hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions and responsibility of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Genesis Radio, www.genesisradio.com, Genesis Radio's owners, management, or affiliates.
It's another Thoughtful Thursday, and you are on the air with Ron, Romane, and Miss Tish. Well, today, the ladies couldn't be here with us today, so it's me and TP Square.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, we're
right.
going to kick it around. We're going to make it do what it do.
Absolutely.
So today, I was thinking about what would be a good topic. And, what came across my mind was this election. Both parties, Republicans and Democrats, are vying for the black vote. Biden has been showing up at various black functions, and Trump has been trying to match Biden's effort. But my question is, what are we getting for the vote, for our support, whether it be Biden or Trump? What are we getting?
The same thing.
Right.
Nothing.
What are our expectations, right? In order to get the vote, and I'm just going to use, say, Jewish people, for example. If you are going to get the vote of Jews in mass as a bloc, you have to make definitive statements about Israel, your support for Israel. And there's an article that I read today in the Times. This is actually Saturday's Times. And in the article, they talk about the fact that the West Bank had been under military, supervision. The Supreme Court in the nation of Israel said that while this so-called war is going on, which is actually an invasion, that the military would have control of the region. Well, in this article I read just today, it says that there are those forces within Israel that are trying to get control of the West Bank, that they are systematically taking the power away from the military and turning it over to civilians, right? Members of the government. And once they get their hands on the West Bank, well, it's done. It will now become part of Israel. Now, people had accused Israel of annexing that region. Well, now they're taking it using, I guess surreptitious means, because one, they say, we're defending ourselves against Hamas. Most of the people that are getting killed over there are not members of Hamas. They're not Hamas fighters. They're typically women and children. But anyway, they're now trying to cement their hold on this region. And we have a president, Joe Biden, that is constantly resupplying Israel with weapons of mass destruction. So if the New York Times is reporting, and this is actually recorded, someone made a recording of this meeting that was held early this month, and they released the tape to the media. So if the media is aware of it, I would think that the president would be aware of it too, since we're supposed to have some of the best intelligence gathering apparatus on the planet. Well, does he know? And if he does know, well, why are you still sending these people weapons if it has been shown that they are taking Palestinian land? So with this election coming up, again, if you're going to give your vote to either of these parties, which realistically is really one big party, you ought to get something for it. I hear people talking constantly about, well, our ancestors, they died for the right to vote. Yes. But I'll be damned if our ancestors died to choose between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That was not what they envisioned. They envisioned people of color, people of conscience getting into office that will make things fair for everyone. Now, you tell me which one of these old two clowns is going to make it fair for everybody in this country. It's not going to happen. They say the definition of insanity is when you perform the same act over and over, but expect a different result. So every 4 years, in terms of presidential elections, every 2 years, in terms of some congressional districts, we're rushing out to vote. But we're voting in the same people, same parties, same nonsense, yet we expect something to change. Why? It's insanity. We're putting the same people back that didn't do a damn thing for 4 years or for 2 years, and now you're going to send them back? And what are they going to do this next 2 or 4 years or 6 years?
The same thing.
The same thing they've been doing because there's no mandate. Black folks ain't asking for nothing. If Biden will come down to a black church, get up on the pulpit, say, hey, I like those Negro hymns you sing. I sure like the chicken you cook. He's got their vote.
Here's some watermelon to go with it.
There you go. Now, for Trump, I saw him the other day. He was surrounded by black Republicans. I believe it may have been in Texas. Anyway, they showed up to support their candidate, Trump, which, listen, that's cool. Whoever you want to vote for, that's fine. But what do you expect to get from Trump?
Nothing.
Well, he said when he was president that they were empowerment zones he had created.
No, he didn't.
Well, have you ever seen an empowerment zone?
He didn't create anything. You know what he's selling to these people today?
What's that?
What he's selling to get young, uneducated black voters
Mhm.
on his team. He's publicly saying that he gave them the stimulus.
Right. Which he didn't want to sign.
He didn't want to sign that, but
Right.
he's saying he gave them the stimulus to put money in the community.
Right. So
and stimulate the economy to keep things going in the community. And that's bull.
Well, you know what? When Congress pushed it through, because it was Congress that pushed for the stimulus, when he realized that he couldn't stop it, then he decided to put his name on
The check.
the check. And well, there was a letter you actually got, right, from your pal Donald Trump, right? But be that as it may, the stimulus is a couple of dollars, right? That money's long gone. You had to pay it back when you file your taxes the next year. So you really didn't get anything. But, in terms of both of these two guys, I see America being in a hell of a lot of trouble, whether it is Biden or whether it's Trump.
Well, the issue here is, right, I don't care for either candidate.
Me neither.
Right.
I'm not voting for nobody.
And there is no stronger option that could actually win. It's going to be one or the other.
Right.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And for me, I don't want Donald Trump in the White House again because of the things he said he's going to do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Whether if he's lying or not, because he made the threat,
Mhm.
I have to take him seriously.
And
So it's a matter of choosing the lesser of the two evils.
And you know what? I don't know which one is the lesser of the two evils. When you look at it,
I would have. I'm going to vote for Biden. I'm going to vote for Biden because he clearly, to me, is the lesser of the two evils.
but in terms of what's going on in what's called the Middle East, so we got America.
Let me say this to you,
Mhm.
right? We talking about what's going on in the Middle East,
right.
Trump was Netanyahu's best friend.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, do you think he would change anything from what Biden's doing?
You know what?
Absolutely not.
Well, here's the thing, right? As I said, if you want to run for president of the United States, you have to make a definitive statement as it relates to Israel and Israel's defense. You also have to say that you will support Israel economically and with military aid. If you're not willing to do that, you are not getting into the White House. So both of them have to make that declaration. That much is clear. I think every president going back to the 60s has basically said, we will support Israel. But right now, Israel is fighting a proxy war for America. And up in Ukraine, you have more military aid heading that way, right? But while that's going on, several European nations, Germany, England, and France, have said they might send troops to train Ukraine army. Well, if you're going to have NATO troops that close to Russian troops, what do you think is going to happen? And this is Biden pushing for this, right? So we might have World War III if we put Biden in there. And if we put Trump in there, we're looking at a civil war because Trump has already said all the people he's going to go after. He said on Fox News, and I listened to just a clip, but he said, I have every right to go after them. After what they did to me, I have every right to go after them. Well, who's them? And if he goes after them, is he going to stop at those he feels were disloyal?
Nope.
Or will he go after others?
He going after everybody. Let me tell you something. The climate has changed clearly. All right.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 30 days, I've been living up here for over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I know we're open carry state.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've seen more people walking through Walmart with their exposed gun attached to their hip that's not law enforcement
Mm-hmm.
than I've ever seen in my 25 plus years being on this mountain.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And when I walk outside and I'm looking and I'm sitting in my car and I'm looking at the vehicles they're getting into and I'm looking at the paraphernalia that's on their vehicles, you know what? It's the Donald Trump effect.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they are preparing for a civil war.
Right. They are.
They're preparing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I saw a video of a man with brass knuckles on physically attacking protesters at one of these colleges, you know, that was protesting this thing that's going on in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So the seed has been planted. The replacement theory is something that has been sold to these poor, uneducated people
Right.
in America.
Right.
All right. And he has sold them on that fear alone. And that's what's changing the trajectory of their ways and actions and everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have never seen as many people try to mean mug me in Walmart, even coming out of the doctor's office up here,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they got their gun on their hip.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at them saying to myself, you got one gun.
Right.
And you got to get to yours.
Right.
You got to unlatch it to pull yours out.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what?
You got to be ready.
I'm ready.
Right.
I'm going to be like Beans. I'm going to get low and keep fine.
Right.
Just like I told you the story when I went hunting with some folks. And they said, well, what you got all these guns for? I said, just in case we have a deliverance moment out here.
Right.
I'm going to get low and I'm going to keep firing.
There you go.
I'm not here to hunt the deer. Because I'm going to get some deer meat because you're going to give me some.
But you know what? On the other side of that coin, you have, what you saw was the formation of a number of Black-owned gun clubs.
Yes.
Like NAGA. And there's a chapter here, right in East Stroudsburg, right? And that chapter's growing. And, you know, I guess people are now, Black people, brown people are coming to the realization we have to defend ourselves.
Well, you know what, Ron? More than ever, that Mumford Act is so prevalent today.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I look at all these armed people walking through Walmart and walking all over East Stroudsburg and even down in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
See, Philly is a whole other story.
Absolutely.
You can buy a gun at over the counter at any store.
Well, Philly doesn't want you to carry a gun in Philly.
Philly don't want you to carry a gun, but everybody like me and you got access to guns.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas up here, we don't.
Right.
All right. So I'm saying that to say the Mumford Act, going way back to the 60s, right,
mm-hmm.
is prevalent today because they have made it impossible for people like you and I to have a little skirmish with the law to have our Second Amendment right. So we are outnumbered based upon Second Amendment rights.
Well, you know something?
And it's clearly obvious.
I think that's going to change. And I say that because The Supreme Court has been coming with some real wacky decisions lately. Well, you know what? Let me just clarify it, because the Supreme Court has always had some wacky decisions, some decisions that had nothing to do with the law or fairness or justice, right? This was just politics. When black folks were enslaved, we had the Dred Scott decision, right? You go from a slave state to a free state back to a slave state. And he says, wait a minute, I entered free territory. Why am I not free? Supreme Court says no. Supreme Court says that black folks were 3/5 human beings. The hell kind of decision is that? And now the other day they
said,
that's
still on the books.
Right. And this the other day they said, with all of the mass shootings we have, they just said, well, we think we're going to allow people to have bump stocks again. The hell are you thinking? All these people getting slaughtered, they took away the bump stocks because of the mass killing in Las Vegas several years ago. And now you want to give them back? The hell is wrong with these people? But, this is, part of the sickness of America. And, when you look at these two old dudes, right? Which one is really the sickest? We can say it's Trump, right? Because, well, Trump does not appear, to be too mentally sound. Neither does Biden, really. But if you're going to take two old men, both of them set in their ways, Biden is a neocon. Biden never met a war he did not like. And, he lost a son, who was a soldier. After you lose a child, you might want to change your stance on war. Not Biden. For Trump, well, look, Trump has a relationship with Vladimir Putin. So he's probably, and he's talked openly about defunding NATO, right? Like, look, we are the ones who give NATO the bulk of the money, right, to protect Eastern Europe. Well, why are we doing that? Why isn't Eastern Europe kicking in more of the money to protect themselves? Why is America putting most of the money out there? So, Trump has a point there. So you don't have to worry too much about Trump expanding NATO and putting more pressure on Putin. At least you hope. You do have to worry about Trump here in this country seeking vengeance. Now, let's just add it up. He was convicted in New York, so he's going after the attorney general, the district attorney, right? And anybody else in New York that he thinks was disloyal. Then he's got the federal case, which there's a judge, Judge Cannon, who's holding that up, right? She is just going to continue, keep filing or recognizing these motions until the election. And if he wins, well, that case is gone. He just pardoned himself. So that's her strategy. Why she's allowed to stay on that case, who the hell knows? Down in Georgia, you got the sister, Fani Willis. If he gets elected, he's going after Fani Willis. He's going after anybody. He's going after even some Republicans, Brad Raffensperger, who taped the conversation. He'll be going after him. But now, if you take a man like Trump, who said he'll be a dictator just on day one, what's going to happen on day two, day three? If you have absolute power from day one, you won't give that up?
Nope.
Somebody like Trump?
Nope.
It's not going to happen. Nobody, you wouldn't really expect anybody of that ilk.
That's exactly why he cannot gain interest into the White House, just because of what he said.
But on the other hand, are we so sure about Biden? If Biden wins again and he keeps pouring money and material, war material into Ukraine, into the hands of the Israelis, how long before this conflict widens and American troops are engaged? Now, as for Biden, his sons ain't going to war. One of them was on trial now for buying a gun when he's supposed to be a drug addict, which don't make sense to me. Because even if you've been clean for 30 years, you're still an addict. So what are you supposed to check? What box are you supposed to check? But anyway, his sons aren't going to war. Trump's children ain't going nowhere near a front. But for you and I that have sons and daughters, isn't it possible that they will be sent to defend the land that they can't live in? Like Israel.
You're right.
So, for America that just came out of a 20-year conflict in Iraq, a situation we never should have been in. Iraq didn't have a damn thing to do with 9/11. So now,
and not to mention, Saddam Hussein was the police of the Middle East.
Exactly.
He kept Bin Laden and all them in check.
But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. When 9/11 happened, right, all of a sudden, focus shifted from Osama bin Laden to Saddam Hussein. Suddenly, Saddam Hussein had to disarm. Well, next thing you know, Bush was wanting to build a coalition. Then he changed his mind and said, you know what? To hell with a coalition, we'll go on our own. But for what? Weapons of mass destruction. How many did we find? So what Israel is doing now in the West Bank is the same thing America did with Iraq. We took that land, we took the oil, and we killed the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, who fought his own Muslim brothers and sisters for us in the 80s when he went to war with Iran. Well, Saddam, he was no longer of use, so he had to go. And so many others. You can go down the list of people who are no longer of use to America that we went in and sent our military to take them out. You can talk about Saddam Hussein. You can talk about the guy from Panama, Noriega, right? Why do we need to send a stealth bomber to bomb Panama? All they have is a PDF, a little small, tiny fighting force. What was that about? We went into Grenada to kill Brother Bishop, Maurice Bishop. For what? Supposedly communists on the island. It's a medical school there. Students said they were never in any danger. Why did you send in the Marines? So the same thing that Israel is doing, America has done on multiple occasions. And, now we have the former colonial powers who've gotten together and said, look, we need to control the map again. And of course, Biden is down with that program. Biden, Macron, the German chancellor, the English, Sunak, Rishi Sunak, whatever his name is, they're all down with that program. They don't give a damn about how many Palestinians get killed. If they did, they would have stopped this a long time ago.
Absolutely.
But, it's allowed to happen. So I'm not sure about voting for Biden because I have a son and a daughter who are draft age. And for the military, they have not been able to meet their recruitment quotas for several quarters now. If you're going to fight a war, you need bodies.
Absolutely.
And I'm really not interested in seeing my son sent off to fight in the desert for a land he can't live in. I don't want to see my daughter sent overseas to end up in a place like Eastern Europe, fighting for a European conflict that ain't got a damn thing to do with her. If you decide they want to go to war again against their European brothers and sisters, well, look, what does it have to do with us, right? That's on them. Let them fight it out. Leave us the hell alone. And that's my concern with Joe Biden. And with Donald Trump, I mean, look, the concerns are many. There's so many people in this country that are apprehensive. Women in this country, they're talking about, look, you cannot have an abortion in this country, even if the life of the mother's at stake in some states. The Supreme Court just passed a measure today that would allow emergency abortions. I believe it might have been in Idaho. But now, look, they tell you that you have a right to medical privacy, that the medical decisions you make are between you and your healthcare provider. What the hell is the government doing in this? Why? I saw a clip yesterday. I was watching the nightly news, and they were showing a guy in the Air Force. He had been in there. He was an officer. He was kicked out and dishonorably discharged because he was gay.
Mm.
So somebody who's willing to fight and die for this country, do you really care what his orientation is? Now they're saying he can apply for apply to have his name cleared by the government. I guess a pardon is what they said. But why is the government in your bedroom? Why is the government telling you, women, what you can do with your own body? Now, we say, well, the Democrats aren't opposed to abortion. Well, they may not be, but in terms of providing health care for the mothers, right, for poor mothers, child care, educational benefit, they ain't doing that. So they're going to tell you, well, you can have the baby, right, if you choose, but once the baby's here, we ain't doing a damn thing for you. Now go get a job, because now you're a lazy welfare mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Democrats. Look, I get it. There were generations of people on welfare. Grandma, daughter, great-granddaughter on welfare. The cycle had to be broken. So, when Clinton was president back in the 90s, he decided, look, if you want that check, you want to work for it. So a lot of people end up cleaning parks, like in New York, cleaning the park, stuff like that, to earn that paycheck.
They called them wet workers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Had them working for their check.
Had them working. Instead of sitting at home waiting for the mailman, you got to get out there and hustle a little bit. Well, now what happened to them wet workers? You don't see them anymore. Where'd they go?
Well, most of them got hired.
Mm-hmm.
Became full-time employees.
I would hope so.
Over at the agencies, the Parks Department,
Mm-hmm.
Transit Authority, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope so, because there's no free lunch anymore for working class and poor people. Now, rich people is a different story. For them, they're the biggest welfare recipients on the planet, and yet we get mad with the woman who gets $10 extra in food stamps. We're not mad at the companies like BlackRock that have $66 trillion in holdings. $66 trillion. Now, look, tonight is the debate between these two clowns, right? Which I don't give a damn. I ain't watching it. But one, if you didn't know about them before, you ain't going to know about them tonight. You're not going to learn anything you didn't already know.
That's right.
And what's more important is not what they're saying. What's most important is who's the people that are funding them. Where is their money coming from to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get into the White House? Who's behind that? And that'll tell you what the real agenda is. So for Trump, we know that I think Big Oil gave Trump about $1 billion toward his campaign. And Trump is basically going to say, look, if you find oil in Central Park, damn it, we're going to drill in Central Park, right? I don't care about the environment. I don't care about the polar ice caps melting. I don't care about the earth crust heating up. I don't care about global warming. All I know is that these billionaires gave me a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And what they want is access to drill. And he was saying, drill, baby, drill. So, for the Democrats who say that they are the environmental, or the environmentalist, really? I mean, I don't know. Is one any better than the other?
I always say left wing, right wing,
Same bird, right?
Same bird.
All birds got two wings, right?
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. It's really one big party. I mean, yeah, they get a little nasty with each other. That happens, but that's about it. And a lot of that is theater.
Mm-hmm.
To make it look like they're really doing something. They ain't doing a damn thing. And, I get these requests for donations from both parties. I ain't giving them a damn thing. How in the hell can someone like a senator, a member of Congress, who makes $175,000 a year, who can serve one term, get a full pension and lifetime health care, how the hell are you going to ask somebody for money who's making a third of what you make?
That's right.
And give them money to do what? To get reelected? To not do a damn thing? No. This whole system is the problem. And we keep believing in this system. And the system keeps giving us clear reason or clear evidence that it doesn't work. If you are poor right now, today, I don't care who's elected. It could be Trump, it could be Biden, it could be Donald Duck. If you're poor now, 4 years from now, unless you hit the lottery or something, you are going to be poor.
That's right.
When it comes to the election in 2029 or 2028, what's going to change? If America is still in the same condition it is, and it is very unlikely that America will remain in this condition, because I think that this election, we've been talking about how important elections are, but this election, this one right here in November, is going to be the one that I believe is going to destroy America's standing, is going to bankrupt America. America's already bankrupt morally, socially, politically, but there's not much left. And once this election is over, within a couple of years, America will lose its standing in the world. We've already lost a great deal, but there are a few more levels we can fall, and it's coming.
Absolutely.
There was a time in this country when we respected our politicians. When you would ask kids in school, what are some of the smartest occupations? You'd say doctor, you say lawyer, you say politician. Now, you really can't say politician anymore. Not when you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene that tells you there were Jews on the moon with space raids. And she is elected to hold office.
Yep.
That's
crazy.
This is who's leading this country. How far have we fallen? This Judeo-Christian society, right? Where we believe in God so much, churches everywhere, but we're going to elect a president, right, in 2016, who said to go up and grab women by the pussy.
Mm-hmm. Go grab them by the pussy.
Right. Wait a minute. This is America? This is America where we're telling women, oh, no, you cannot have an abortion regardless of your medical circumstances. That's America. This is America where people have lost their rights, their freedoms. I look at YouTube and I see some of the stuff police officers do. Walk up to people, start going through their pockets.
Mm-hmm.
That's called robbery.
That's right.
But of course, people don't know. And people a lot of times don't want to confront the police by filing complaints. They just let it go. Well, when you let it go, guess what? They're coming back the next day to go through your pockets.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming to kick open your doors. Sometimes they show up at the wrong house. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the America. This is not what our ancestors dreamed of. And, for people to use that line about voting is so important, unity is a hell of a lot more important than voting. And we don't have a lick of that. But you want me to go out and cast a vote because the Democrats want to win? Well, look, what are Democrats offering for this win?
The same thing they always offer.
Right.
Nothing.
Exactly. So what are we so eager to get to the polls for?
We have to be just like everybody that's afraid of this replacement theory.
Right.
We have to be afraid of Donald Trump's threat to be a dictator, to become this guy in North Korea, to become a Putin. That's his goal. That's what he want to do. He want to be president forever.
But you know something? These same people that will say they're afraid of Trump are the same people that will go to church on Sunday and say, I don't fear nothing but Jesus. I don't fear nothing but my God. So if that's what you believe, why the hell are you scared of Trump? If you have so much faith in God that God will protect you from anything, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, why are you scared of Trump? It doesn't add up to me. You say this, you believe in God, you are saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, but you ran and got that virus, that vaccine, didn't you? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What happened to standing on your faith? Well, if you say you're a believer, but you scared of Trump, you ain't got no damn faith. I'm sorry. You don't have no faith if you are scared of a man who you don't run for God. That's not an elected position. That position already been filled. So if you're afraid of Trump, something is wrong with your belief, right? And what's happening in this country, it has to happen. This election coming down to these two men, these two rather old men. Well, one of them, whoever is elected, will be the one that I believe the universe, or some people will call God, has hand selected to lead this country to destruction. There's not much more that America can do to address its own problems, so we're addressing everybody else's. We're addressing issues in the Middle East, we're addressing issues in the Far East, we're addressing issues in Europe. But what about the people here? What about the people here who can barely afford to keep food on the table? What about the people here who have to make the decision, do I pay the light bill or do I put gas in the car to go to work? What about them? Why would a person who's facing eviction care about what's going on in Ukraine? And look, it's horrible that people have not learned that there is no winner in warfare. People think, right? We think that war is hell, and it is, because we have to do the fighting. But for the corporations that sell the missiles, that sell the bullets, that sell the hospital supplies, it's a windfall. And these are the same people that are telling us we need to be afraid of people that speak Arabic. We need to be afraid of people, young Black men. We need to be afraid of immigrants. They never tell you not to fear, only to fear. Fear this one, fear that one. And they take that fear and they use it to their advantage. Vote for me because I'm going to protect you from the immigrants. I'm going to protect you from the Black people. I'm going to protect you from China. How? Explain it to me. It hasn't worked yet. So how are you going to protect anybody? So, folks, those of you who are listening, if you choose to vote, that is your absolute right. But what are you getting for it? If it's just a lot of promises, well, hell, listen, 40 acres and a mule was a promise that was never fulfilled. And there were so many others. For the Native Americans, Treaty after treaty was signed, and not one of them was honored. Here in the Poconos, named after the Pocono Indians, how many indigenous Native Americans do you see walking the street of the Poconos? Where in the hell are they? You know, down in places like Jamaica and the Caribbean, there were Arawak Indians. My first trip to Jamaica, people were talking about the Arawaks. I said, well, where are the Arawaks? You know what they said? All of them are dead. How did that happen? So we have been promised a hell of a whole lot. Now they don't promise anything because they don't have to. All they have to do is show up and say, hey, look, you know, you got to vote for me. You know, in the last election, 2016, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Wait, what? So all black folks are supposed to vote up and down the Democratic line? And for what? You know, you turn on the news, the nightly news, and I don't see any improvement in the inner cities of America. Things are getting worse. People are dying, right? Constant violence. My wife was telling me something today about some young man who sells high-end sneakers, shot and killed, you know, in broad daylight on the street. For what? There's an article in Pocono paper about two young men that had abducted, what, 4 to 6 young girls? Some of them were held in a storage container. That's right here in the Poconos.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Right. So if the government can't protect you now, they can't protect you in 2025 or 2026. And since Reagan was elected in 1980, America's had the largest military buildup of any country on the planet. And yet, we still had 9/11. Yet, we still have, you know, this whole disappearance of children, young children. Every day you look at social media, there's a new appeal for some missing child. Who's protecting them? For the elderly people in this country who are struggling to pay the rising cost of health care, who's helping them? You know, there's a commercial where Biden said he's lowering the cost of health care. Where? Bringing prescription prices down? Where? When my mother was alive, I used to buy her medicine from Mexico or from Canada because she simply couldn't afford it. Have prices come down that low? You go to the gas station, prices are constantly on the rise. And why? They give you some ridiculous excuse. Well, it's a refinery issue. It's a summer blend. It's a winter blend. It's a blend of BS.
Mm-hmm.
This is simply greedy corporations.
That's all it is.
These two guys, these two old men, are being supported by greedy corporations. They don't give a damn about what you have to say about your concerns because you don't have the money that they need to get back into power. And just think for 1 second, I don't care, Democrat, Republican, whether you figure left, right, center, upside down, I don't care. Why would you spend $1 billion to get a job that only pays $400? Think about that. I would rather have the money. But this isn't about money.
No.
At least not for the president right away. This is about the corporations. They're the ones putting up the money. They're the ones who are hoping to recoup the money that they spent in their investment. Yes, they invest in senators, congressmen, and yes, the president. and money talks, and you know what walks. So in this election, a lot of money is being spent, a hell of a lot of money. Where's it coming from? All of it is not coming from private donations. These are corporations who are saying, look, what we want is you in office. And once you get in office, we have an agenda already laid out for you. You are going to continue to put pressure on the Russians. You're going to continue to supply weapons to Zelensky. You want to continue to supply weapons to Israel and to Netanyahu. And if this war widens, yeah, you're going to fight that too, because we have lots of money at stake and we're not going to lose it. So, folks, I just want you to think before you walk into the voting booth and make a mistake. You know, for too long, we've just tried to set and try to decide, well, what's the lesser of two evils? We don't need two damn evils, folks.
That's right.
That's not what we need. We need
Right.
somebody with some common sense who ain't evil, who ain't stupid, right?
Right.
And if that's our choices, then we don't have a choice. And in this election, this person who is inaugurated in January of 2025, this will be the seal the seal of America's fate. And, people might think, oh, you're just talking anti-American. No, I'm talking reality. The reality is no empire can last forever, especially when an empire is crumbling from within from lack of a moral compass.
I concur 100%.
You know what I mean? Listen, what's going on in America is insane. I was having a conversation the other day. There was a time, right, when you could talk about being proud, and now the word pride has been co-opted. If you say you a prideful person, it's synonymous with being gay, right? They're having a pride festival this Sunday, right? What kind of pride?
Mm-hmm.
So the world has been turned upside down and inside out. And, whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe in, some spiritual force, or whether you believe in the power of God, right? Eventually, something is going to happen to correct what's going on this planet. It is not ours. It's not ours to destroy. It's not ours to kill the people who live here or destroy the resources. It's not ours. So when people say, they want their country back, well, who took it? And who do you have to fight to get it back? If you think it's the immigrants, then you're more lost than you thought. If you're going to church every Sunday, to the mosque, to the temple, and you don't have a clear understanding of what's happening, then you don't need to go to church anymore, because you're just sitting there paying your tithes to some pimp who ain't teaching you a damn thing. The Bible has a lot of stories, and I don't go to church. I have no religion. I believe in the spirituality of my ancestors. But I do know the Bible says that there was a place called Sodom and Gomorrah. And eventually, because of, I guess, lack of morality, lack of obedience, those two cities were destroyed. The only country on this planet that purports to be a superpower is the United States of America. The hell do you mean superpower? How can you believe in God but say that you are a superpower? Something's got to give. You can't serve two masters. So either you're on one side or the other. There is no middle ground. There are no pacifists in a war between righteousness and just the forces of darkness. And that's exactly where we're headed. So, folks, I just wanted to drop that on you. And I want you to think, because this vote is real expensive. You pull the wrong lever, and you could see your sons and daughters going off to fight in a war that they cannot win. Folks, we're looking at the possibility of World War III. We didn't learn from World War II, World War One. The same sort of mentality exists today. That if we just launch a preemptive strike, we can win. What are you going to win, man? But anyway, an hour goes by so quickly when you're trying to get some information across. And I hope that some of you who are listening, something sinks in, something gets below the surface, and it kind of blots out what the stuff you see on Fox News or CNN or HLN, right? And you begin to think and to ask yourself some questions. Is what the politicians telling us true? What's the real condition of America? What's our real financial status? Are we still the richest country on the planet? How far away are we from being a third world nation? So, folks, I just want you to think about that, and continue to support Gynesis Radio. On Wednesdays, you have the Empowerment Show. Check it out. Brother drops some real powerful stuff on you. Makes you think. And then following my show, you're going to have strategy coming on. We're also going to drop some knowledge on you and some good sounds. So stay right where you are. We will see you again next Thursday. Have a good weekend.